Hey y'all, and welcome to this week's From the Vault episode from the Magdalen House podcast. We are a 501c3 nonprofit organization based in Dallas, Texas, and known affectionately by many as Maggies. Every first and third Wednesday, we bring you a new release, and our From the Vault episodes, we share podcast releases from our 3 different podcast series: Recover Ed, Recovered, Interviews with Alcoholics, and Hope for the Family. Our podcasts aim to connect, inspire, and educate alcoholics, loved ones, and the community to the Magdalen House and the services we offer. We are so glad that you're here. Thanks for listening.
Hi, you guys. How are you guys this morning? Hello, everybody. It's so good to see everyone. There's so many people here, women here. I just love waking up to this. It's been a very interesting week. So it's really good to see your faces. I think that's what we're all in this for, is to be together, especially in times that are, kind of hard. So let's talk about where we are to this point. We talked about what the purpose of the 4th step is, which is really, really important, because in 1, 2, and 3, we get to determining if we're alcoholic or not, which is really important because we have to qualify ourselves, and we do that with the help of a big book and a sponsor, right? And then in 2, we figure out we're willing to do whatever it takes, and that we're willing to look at a different way or a different pathway of life. And then number 3, we really make a decision that we're going to learn how to live on this spiritual basis that all these weird people women keep talking to me about, that are so healthy and happy. At least that's the way I felt. I felt that they were probably not being truthful with me, because no one can be that happy in sobriety. And so what my sponsor did after I got on my knees and did the 3rd step with her, we immediately got into this 4th step inventory. And I talked about this a couple of weeks ago, and I'll say it again every week. I really didn't understand the purpose of this inventory. I didn't think I was being selfish. I thought everybody was being mean to me, that I was a giver in the family. After all, I'm the mother of 4 children. I don't have any real resentments, not really, but I'm the victim. And so what I did when my sponsor told me about this inventory, and she explained this inventory a different way. I had done several 4th steps, but they were from workbooks, and they were really literally just me just writing down my life story. One of my inventories was 60 pages of me being the victim, right? I'm the victim. I'm the giver. So this particular inventory, my last one, which actually worked for many reasons, was different. And what she did was she literally took apart what was talked about in the book and laid it out into this very simple inventory process. We talked about that last week, where there are 3 inventories: fear, resentment, and the sex inventory, which we'll be talking about today. She laid out for me the 4 columns. She laid out for me that I'm going to pray between the 3rd column and the 4th column. And she very specifically gave me directions that it was about my life story, but it was my life story in a way that would point me, because that's the end result, is to get me to see my character defects. And then I'm going to see those character defects, and we're going to talk about that in the next couple of weeks in 6 and 7, and find them objectionable. But I first have to have this self-awareness around them. And the other thing too, before we get into this, just kind of the foundation of it, is all of these things that we're talking about today are directly related to step 10. All of the things that we're looking at, as far as the fear and the resentment and the harms, sex, all are going to be utilized as we're living in 10, 11, and 12. So I'm preparing myself, my sponsor in the book, and God, right there in the room always, is preparing me to be able to have a self-awareness and find these things that crop up objectionable. I have to see them first. So that's the purpose of this inventory, is for me to have the tools so that I can see when these things are happening in real time. I go backwards a little bit in the resentments. I go forward a little bit in the fears right now, but as I'm living in 10, I can start to see them in real time. This resentment inventory was very obvious. It's our past. The fear was pretty obvious to me too, especially once I sat down and did the fifth step, which we're going to talk a little bit about today. But the sex inventory thing, I did not get that at all. I'm like, and this is kind of low hanging fruit out there in AA land, but it's not about who you've had sex with. I mean, I literally did not understand how I could manipulate and passive aggressively utilize me as a human to hurt others, especially in relationships, because this is really what this is about. My intimate relationships. I didn't see how I was doing that. Again, it's all about me seeing these things so that I can find an objection. And this inventory helps me to clearly see when when I've stepped over the line and I don't even know it. Every inventory, the fear, the resentment, and the sex all have cheat pages, I call them, in the book. So if you go to the page that starts talking about this sex and harms inventory, because I'm going to go right out of the book, it starts on page 68. So if you have your big book, which I hope you do, let's go to page 68 and let's look at the bottom of it and let's read about what it says. And then we can talk about what we put on the inventory. And then we can start talking a little bit about step 5. So now about sex. Many of us need an overhauling there, but above all, we try to be sensible on this question. It's so easy to get way off track, and we find human opinions running to extremes, absurd extremes. One set of voices cry that sex is a lust of our lower nature, a base necessity for procreation. Then we have the voices who cry out for sex and more sex, who bewail the institution of marriage, who think that most troubles of the race are traceable to sex causes. They think we do not have enough of it, or they think is it the right kind. They see its significance everywhere. One school would allow men no flavor for his fare, and the other would have us all on straight pepper diet. We want to stay out of this controversy. I want to stop right there. No. We do not want to be the arbiter of anyone's sex conduct. I have that highlighted in my book because that is key to sponsorship. So as we move into sponsorship too, I'm not going to tell someone this is a bad relationship. You need to get out of it. Anything you put before your recovery, you're going to lose. I mean, I've definitely said that before, but what I'm focusing on, I just had a 10 step this morning. It was awesome because, and I love her, but she said, this man that she's dating, he keeps relapsing and relapsing. She loves him. The first time he relapsed, she was very obsessed with everything that he did. This next time, she was healthier around it. Distance. She loves him. Just because someone relapses doesn't mean that they're a bad person, obviously. But what was happening was that she was getting sick around it. So my job as a sponsor is not to tell her that he's a bad person, that she does not need to be with him because he's relapsing. What my job as a sponsor is, I'm not the arbiter of her sex life. What I am the arbiter of is helping her to see where she's been selfish, where she's been in resentment, where she's been in fear. There's a huge black and white area there where we as sponsors and as women in recovery start to tell each other, you shouldn't be in that relationship. That's a lot of where that whole school of thought comes from. And they're going to touch on it again in the 5th step, and we're going to touch again on it in working with others. There's several places, but that's a really important statement.
Lisa, can I ask a question really quick? I'm so sorry, but
Nancy, please.
What's an arbiter?
A judger. I'm not judging anyone's sex life.
Thank you, hon.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. You guys have to see. I think that's so perfect because I always think that it's the guy's fault. Like if someone has an affair, it's her fault. She did it. Okay, wait a second. We got to take everybody else out. If my husband has an affair, it's not her fault. There's chickies out there everywhere. I have to look inside. It's an internal. So that's what this sex life is all about. It's an internal issue. All right. It helps us to see that. All right. Please ask questions as we go along. I don't mind at all. I actually love it. We reviewed our own conduct over the years past. Where had we been selfish, dishonest, or inconsiderate? Whom had we hurt? Did we unjustifiably arouse jealousy, suspicion, or bitterness? Where had we been at fault? What should we have done instead? We got this all down on paper and looked at it. I don't know about you, but I recently, and I thank God this is a perfect example. My husband and I were divorced. I think everybody pretty much knows that. And then we got remarried about 5 or 6 years later. But in that period of time, I had a relationship. He was really cute, really gorgeous guy, whatever. But I used that man to make Dave jealous. I know part of me did that. I would never do that. I'm a woman in recovery. Blah, blah, blah. If I got it all down on paper, which I did, a 4th step on it and a 5th step when Dave and I got back together, I saw where I was manipulating that relationship in order to get the end result of upsetting Dave. So that man in the middle, I used him. So I had to get all of that down on paper. Where was I arousing jealousy? Did I have a resentment? His name was Lawrence. Did I have a resentment against Lawrence? No. Had I harmed him? Absolutely. Did I harm his children? Yes. I led him to a place where he thought he was in a relationship with me, but he was in a relationship with Dave and me and didn't even know it. So these are the things that there's no resentment attached to it, probably fear for sure. But this is this sex inventory. It's not about me having sex with Lawrence. It's taking everybody out of the picture. And what did I do to arouse jealousy? What were my motives in the relationship? Am I walking side by side? Or am I trying to get an end result that I think, and not God, taking God out of the picture, an end result that I want that's going to make everybody happy? All right, I love this. It's all about the collateral damage too. Remember, it's not just about us, it's the ripple effect that we have on families and other members too. In this way, we tried to shape a sane and sound sex ideal for our future sex life. We subjected each relationship to this test. Was it selfish or not? That is something that I carry with me every single day. Every day. Is this selfish? We ask God to mold our ideas and to help us live up to them. Remember always that our sex powers were God-given and therefore good, neither to be used lightly or selfishly, nor to be despised or loathed. Whatever our ideal turns out to be, we must be willing to grow towards it. We must be willing to make amends where we have done harm, provided we do not bring still more harm in doing so. In other words, we treat sex as we would any other problem. I'm going to stop right there. My sponsor said this to me one time, which I love. When I was going through this whole thing with Dave, and all this relationship was messy and sex and all this stuff that harms, she said, just treat it like it's selfish or in fear or a resentment. She said, just these relationships and these sex problems, whether it's an affair, because that's what my resentment was about, just to be honest with you. And everybody know Dave had an affair. So I thought I was getting back at him. I was starting to feel bad about that. And I was starting to judge Dave for what he did. And she said, whoa, pull back. It doesn't matter if Dave, it's still selfish. It's dishonest. It's resentment, and it's fear-based. It doesn't matter what Dave's actions are. It's about my defects that are blocking me from God. Do you see that? I'm using the details. I'm making Dave's details of what he did. I'm justifying my anger to get back at him. Now that's some 5th step stuff I just talked about, but I want you guys to see that so you can put it on this inventory, because I think it's really important to start to see that stuff as you sit down with your sponsor. At least my sponsor did, pointed things out to me and took me right to this sentence where it said, we treat sex conduct and sex defects just like we do any other ones. And that she wasn't talking about me. She was talking about Dave, how I was judging my husband to holding him to a higher standard, but it's just a defect. It's dishonesty. You see that? All right. I love that. So here's the second sex prayer. The first sex prayer is in the sentence above it. We ask God to mold our ideas and help us live up to them. That's the first sex prayer. The second sex prayer is we ask God what we should do about each specific matter. The right answer will come if we want it. The next sentence is a very big sentence too. God alone can judge our sex situation. Counsel with other persons is often desirable, but we let God be the final judge. We realize that some people are as fanatical about sex as others are loose. We avoid hysterical thinking or advice. The most important one, my sponsor, I love my sponsor. I talk to her about it all the time, but she said, God does not come to us hysterically. If I've got hysterical, which is extreme advice, or someone saying, no, absolutely not, then that's not God. That's not spiritual. God does not come to us hysterically, right? It's calm. The other thing that's really important in this sentence is that other persons, I'm going to counsel with other persons, that other person is my sponsor. We have a tendency sometimes when we kind of know what our sponsor is going to say to go around and get advice from other people because we want to keep going to other people until we hear what we want to hear. Well, she said, I can do that. I mean, you see, so my sponsor is the one who knows me in and out, probably better than my husband. And she's going to be the one who can give me advice. Now, she's not going to tell me to be in a relationship or not. She's going to show me my selfishness, my resentment, my dishonesty, and my fear. And then I'm going to alone judge my sex situation with God on my knees with this information that she's given me. All right. So we're writing all this stuff down. Remember, all of these inventories have 4 columns. I'm even going to use a 4-column inventory on my sex. First column, who did I harm? Who did I harm? Second column, what happened? What happened to cause for me to react the way that I did? What did it affect? Personal relationships, personal security, my self-esteem, beer, pocketbook, all the things that we do. I'm going to pray, just like it talks about at the bottom of page 66 and 67, always, before I get into my 4th column. And then I'm going to use the words that they use throughout this 4th column chapter. Selfishness, was I selfish? Was I in resentment? Was I in fear? And was I dishonest? I'm going to really try to stick to those character defects, because judgment, ego, pride, all of that, I use those words too, but it all stems from those 4 words usually, keeping it simple, okay? Suppose, this is really important too, I love this. Okay, suppose we fall short of this chosen ideal and stumble. Does this mean we're going to get drunk? Some people tell us so, but this is only a half truth. It depends on us and our motives. If we are sorry for what we have done and have the honest desire to let God take us to better things, we believe we will be forgiven and we have learned our lesson. If we are not sorry, our conduct continues to harm others, we are quite sure to drink. That's a promise. We are not theorizing. These are facts out of our experience. All right, so here's the 3rd sex prayer. To sum up sex, we earnestly pray for the right ideal, for guidance in each questionable situation, guidance from our sponsor, not from everybody else, for sanity and for the strength to do the right thing. If sex is very troublesome, we throw ourselves hard. Okay, I'm going to stop right there before I read that. So this is a really important that I'm going to pray for each in each questionable situation. I cannot emphasize enough prayer, and I've been doing a lot more lately than during the day than I have been in a long time. Praying always. I tell you what, the action of pausing is not the pause, it's the praying. So whenever I'm in any questionable situation, I'm going to pause and I'm going to pray. And it helps to write this stuff down always. All right, this is another important statement. If sex is very troublesome, right? If we're tempted, affairs or whatever it might look like, that's not a spiritual walk on the spiritual walk, right? We throw ourselves harder into helping others. We think of their needs and work for them. This takes us out of ourselves. It quiets the imperious urge when to yield would mean heartache. Specific direction, toolkit, right? That's another principle. It's when to yield would hurt others. We got constantly thinking of others, principle. And then the direction, go and help others. We throw ourselves into helping others because we're constantly thinking of everyone in the situation and not ourselves. When I think about what I want all the time, I'm sure to get in trouble. And it tells me in here, the promise is if I continue to harm others, because that's not recovery, I'm sure to drink. I'm not going to sure to drink because I'm hurting others. I'm sure to drink because I am blocked by selfishness, by dishonesty. I've told myself a delusion, and it's fear-based, right? So all of this stuff is going to go on this inventory that's really important. And I always thought it was just about who I had sex with. When all of this stuff was explained to me and it started becoming revealed, I saw a picture of myself as a passive aggressive manipulator that I hadn't seen before. And I didn't see it in resentments. And I really didn't see it in the fear. I saw it here. As a human, how am I living? And really, how am I bearing witness out there in the world? Okay. It says, if we've been thorough with our personal inventory, we've written down a lot. We've analyzed our resentments. We've begun to comprehend their futility and their fatality. We've commenced to see their terrible destructiveness. We've begun to learn tolerance, patience, and goodwill towards men, even our enemies, for we look at them as sick people. That's where we get the prayer. That's where the prayer comes in, so we can start to look at these people as sick. We have listed the people we have hurt by our conduct, and we're willing to straighten out the past if we can. If you read in this book, you read again and again and again that faith did for us what we could not do for ourselves. We hope that you're convinced that God can remove whatever self-will has blocked you off from him. If you have already made a decision, right, the third step, and an inventory of your grosser handicaps, this is not our life story, grosser, which means larger, broad, not the specific details, you've made a good beginning. That being so, you've swallowed and digested some big chunks of truth about yourself. This third inventory, that it's literally, when I look at this sex inventory, it's what am I giving to this relationship instead of taking? It's almost like I become a taker, and I didn't even know. A very simple explanation of that is when I say I need a meeting. Like I'm going to get fed instead of going to the meeting to give. What am I I need to be in this relationship. I'm trying to get fed from it instead to give and walk in partnership side by side, like the women that we're all in recovery together. So it's an interesting inventory that I think gets really slicked over, because I don't think that women explain it out of the book, and it really becomes about the relationships that you have instead of the character defects that I have and how I represent or how I present myself out there to my family, to it's intimate relationships for sure, but it's a ripple effect. Remember, it's compounded. So I'm going to stop there for questions about any of the stuff that we've read. And I hope that helps you guys.
Thank you, Lisa. That was awesome. Does anybody have any questions?
Yeah,
I have one.
Okay, go ahead. Go ahead, Catherine.
Okay, go ahead.
How far back in your past do you go? Because, I've always been the moneymaker, and I can see some of it, but I haven't had a lot of deep relationships where there was more resentments than there was sex on the sex inventory. I mean, there's a few, but not, at my age, you would think there'd be a ton, but
Yep.
you know what I'm saying? I know what you're saying. I was more of a closet drinker, I guess. So
Yep.
I wouldn't put myself out there, because I wasn't going to allow someone to come into my life and tell me how to raise my kids or disrupt my lifestyle. So I guess that's selfish.
Mm-hmm.
That is, but I put the brakes on several years ago, because I always wanted it to be my way. So I didn't use them for anything that they could give me, except maybe a few, just like maybe two. But so my sex inventory isn't going to be that big.
I would go back a few years to see how you presented yourself or how you represented yourself in relationships, even prior to drinking, or even prior to drinking, but prior to drinking problematically. I would definitely do that. The other thing, this is not in the book, that my sponsor had me do is a list of my sex ideals. Like, what are my sex ideals? And this is not in the book, but I did it during the inventory. It says we had a list of our, what does it say right here? Of our sane and sex ideals. So I literally wrote that out too. Like, what do I want in a person that I'm in a relationship with? And then my sponsor turned it around on me and said, that's the kind of person that you need to be for someone else. So, Kathy, even if it's not about another person, you saying to me, you don't want to be in a relationship with anyone because they're going to tell you how you've created this boundary. You're not going to be in a relationship with anyone. So you see that, how you've created you've created this barrier and you're not going to step over it. That's selfish, because Kathy, there's probably somebody out there who needs to be in a relationship or wants to be in a relationship with you. I'm serious. God does not, we're not supposed to be alone.
Okay.
You've created this barrier that's like, I'm not.
Yeah.
Absolute.
Yeah.
Absolutes are always a problem.
Yeah.
So you're being selfish. You're in fear. You know, I don't want to be your sponsor, but
No,
you can start to see where I'm going with that.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome. Mm-hmm.
Hi, Lisa.
I'm Cynthia, alcoholic. I have a question.
Sure, Cynthia.
Hi. I found that the sex inventory kind of affected all my relationships, whether they were intimate or not. It opened up. I'm not going to word this articulately right, but the question I have for you is, did you find the same? Did you find that take out the actual act of sex out of this and you get to all these things? And then I saw where sex inventory, even though it's the last thing, actually kind of went back to the first thing to relate all of those things and incorporated it some way. Can you elaborate on that?
Yes, because I think what you're really talking about is fear. Fear is the evil and corroding thread of everything. Fear drives my resentments. Fear drives the way I act in my sex conduct. So yes, it does. Like the way I show up in relationships in a selfish way, like my motives are really like, I'm going to get what I want, or I'm going to get revenge. It's all fear-based. Like, fear only has 2 pages or a page and a half in this book, and it needs to have a whole chapter. We who are in fear, like all the time. I think that it's really fear-based. Like, I'm not going to get in the relationship I want, or you're not acting the way I want you to act. So I'm going to manipulate you so that I get the end result I want, or I'm going to punish you because of what you've, I'm going to keep score. I'm going to punish you for what you've done to me, but I'm in this relationship with you, but I'm going to punish you. That all goes on the sex inventory.
I love that, because I was going to ask you about fear. Fear. But it was off topic of sex, and then you brought it right back around. So definitely you have your higher power, like right in tune with your little tube.
Well, my sponsor is very, she's pretty strict with me. You know, I mean, she's literally, that's fear-based. That's fear. There you go, trying to run the show again because you're in fear that people won't like you, right? Or in fear that somebody is out to get you, paranoia. You know, oh my God, they're trying to, you know, they're going to hurt me. You know? So it's cool once you start to see how fear is this evil and corroding thread that literally snakes through all relationships I have, especially my children.
I have a question.
Yes.
Okay, so I can see where my relationship is where I'm very fear driven in my relationship. I've been in a relationship for 4 years. He's 54 and I'm 31. But I think the way you said, like in the beginning, I was very controlling, trying to be really controlling. And, whatever he did that I didn't like was like, well, how dare you? And I'm going to punish you. But at this point, I feel like I'm just trying to force something that's not going to be, after 4 years, even though there is some fear driven or just things I don't like. You know, he works with his ex-wife, which I don't think, you know, obviously they're not married for a reason, just a lot of little things that I just don't, and I don't really even blame him anymore, but I just feel like I don't need to be with him, you know?
Okay,
I think that a lot of times I was very dependent on him for my well-being, you know, and my recovery.
Okay. I want you to stop right there, because this is specific stuff about your relationships that you need to talk to your sponsor about. I really feel very strong. Like, what I want to do with you guys is I want to give you directions on how to fill out your inventory. But I don't think that we should. I think this is I want to stop, because I really want you guys, when you have stuff that you need to talk to your sponsor about, I want you need to go talk to your sponsor about this. This is beautiful work that you've got to talk. And I think that you're starting to have this self-awareness. You're starting to wake up. But I want to redirect you to your sponsor, because you've got to tell her exactly what you're telling all of us. And if you tell us, you won't tell her, because you'll get it out and you'll get some group therapy here, and you need to talk to her about it. So what we're doing here is I'm going to give you the directions on how to talk to your sponsor about it. Does that make sense? Okay.
Thank you.
I don't want to cut you off and be rude. I love you. I don't want to be rude. But I want, we've gotten talk and next step from sponsors, my own being one of them, how we cannot take the place of our sponsors in next step. That is not, we can't do. If we do that, then no sponsor is going to allow the women they sponsor to go into next step. They're going to no. They're trying to take the place of sponsors, and we can't do that. So what you need to do is, I think that you've already seen it. You need to put him on your sex inventory and put all those things in the second column that you just talked about. You just went through an inventory yourself. What does it affect? And then you ended with what my mistakes were. It was a perfect fifth step, but I want you to talk to your sponsor about it. I can sit here and tell you what I think, but your sponsor would kill me, whoever that might be.
Okay, Lisa, I have a question, please. All right, so the 4 columns. So who did we harm?
Mm-hmm.
Second, what happened for me to, did you say act or react the way I did? I guess it's really a react,
that's
right?
The 4th column. So the 3rd column is at the top of page 65. So yep. It's literally at the top of page 65. It gives you all of the words right there on the 3rd column.
So just go with those. Okay.
Always go with those.
Got
Don't make it more complicated.
Got
Always
it.
go with those. Now, and then the 4th column is, so my goal in my life is to get to where I respond, because once I pray, I respond. If I don't pray, I react. So
got it. That's yeah.
I'm always gonna, if I want to hit send, that means I shouldn't hit send.
Yeah. Got it. Perfect.
Okay.
So we can really kind of look at all this, just like Cynthia said. I mean, it's really, instead of sex, relationships.
Mm-hmm.
It's all relationships. Every single one of them. I mean, the people you work with or
yeah. How are you manipulating those relationships to get what you want?
Right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Lisa, I would like to ask for you to I got here a little bit late. If you could elaborate on that, because I had my sponsor, sorry, I'm Lisa, I'm an alcoholic. My sponsor told me that she has her mom on her sex inventory and her daughter on her sex inventory. And I just have such a hard time wrapping my mind around that, because the word sex is there. So could you make that easier for me to understand?
I think that you need to talk to your sponsor about why I don't know why she has them on her sex inventory. So I can't answer that question. What I can do is I can read out of the book and tell you how I did it, but I can't answer the question about why her mom or her daughter or son is on her inventory. It would not be on mine, because the relationships, but my kids were on my fear inventory, and my husband was on my resentment inventory a lot. But my sex inventory was really based on relationships, mostly intimate, where I had harmed the people that I had, because I'm manipulating. I'm either trying to get what I want out of them. So I'm going to manipulate and get what I want. Like, I'm not going to bring God into the picture at all. I'm going to write all this stuff down. Or I want to keep score. Like this woman who my husband had an affair with, I was trying to figure out how to harm her. I was really trying to talk bad about her to all of our friends. So did I harm those women? Absolutely. Did I harm her family, the kids at the school? Absolutely. Now, I didn't have sex with any of those, but I harmed them. So they were on my sex inventory, but it wasn't, it was all related to my manipulation of my sex, who I am, who I present myself as.
So is it fair for me then to have my sex inventory be related only to like intimate relationships like that? Like, I understand exactly what you're saying about the women who you hurt because, you know, they were having an affair with your husband or whatever. Like, so just based off of intimate relationships, because if it becomes just personal relationships, then my sex inventory gets huge, right?
Yes. So, but I don't want to go against your sponsor. If your sponsor has given you that direction, then you need to follow her direction. It's worked for her. That's her experience, and she's giving you that direction. So you need to follow her direction. Now, for me, that's not the way I did it out of the book. I didn't do it that way, but it's your sponsor and that's your relationship. And if she's giving you that direction and that's what worked for her, then you need to do that. Okay. Or change sponsors. I'm not telling you to change sponsors or anything, but I'm just saying, follow your sponsor's directions, you guys. Follow your sponsor. Call your sponsor. Follow her directions.
So if our resentment can then starts with fear, right? And then we develop a resentment. And then from there, if we act on that, like wish ill will, then it's our sex inventory.
Yeah. That's part of it.
Yeah.
For sure.
Part of it.
But I've reacted to resentment
right.
to this other, that wasn't on the sex inventory. I mean, it was trying to get what I want, but I was in hardcore resentment.
Okay.
I get it. I'm just going to say real quick, because I had the same experience and I needed to get it clarified. I did it wrong. I didn't understand my sponsor's direction. And so if I were you, I'd get it clarified, just because I was there and I had 90 million people on there and, you know, it was not what she intended for me. So that's all.
Great, Nancy. Great comment. Nancy, comment of the day. That's exactly right. What we think we know is something that we probably don't. We just think we do. She told me that, you know. So yes, that's perfect comment. Thank you for saying that. Anyone else? A couple of things I want to talk about, and then before we get into next week, or 2 weeks from now. 2 weeks from now, on the 15th, we'll be talking about the 5th step. So as you guys are reading from 72 on to 76, which is not very many pages, there's a lot of incredible information here. And as you're going through this reading, and you know, obviously you're working with your sponsor, some of the questions, because as we're looking at the 5th step, the big secret, not really secret, but all 5th steps should look exactly alike. I'll say it again. All 5th steps should look exactly alike. And what I mean by that is that we are trying to get to defects in the 4th column. We're trying to enlighten the women that we sponsor into seeing where they've been selfish, they've been in resentment, they have been in fear, they have been delusional or dishonest, right? So all we're doing is we're using the 1st and the 2nd column to get to the 4th column. I'm not going to focus on the 1st and the 2nd column. The women I sponsor want me to focus on the 1st and the 2nd, because they want to tell me all about how they've been the victim, right? And the longer I let them talk, the more they justify that. I'm trying to get to the 4th column. So if I'm doing that, as human beings, we're all in selfish. We're all in self. We're all in resentment at some point in our lives. We're all in fear, and we're all dishonest. So if I'm really focusing on those defects and trying to get to the 6th step, right? then all fifth steps are going to start looking exactly alike by the end. That's one of the things as you're reading through this material. The other thing I want to say is before we get into it is I'm going to go back into the fourth step when I'm doing my fifth step to ask some of the questions. Like I'll go back to the sex inventory. I'll go back to the fear inventory. I will go back to the resentment inventory. And that's where I'm going to ask. That's where I get the bank of questions that I'm going to ask during a fifth step. Because people are like, well, there's not that much direction for a fifth step here. No, it's because it's located in the fourth step. I'm going to go back and ask the same questions that the women ask themselves as they're writing the inventory down when I'm doing a fifth step. But it's amazing how when you've got another human being in front of you, God, and not just you and God doing it, but when you've got another human being, it looks different. It's a different perspective. Same bank of questions, different result. I start to see things more clearly, but it's cool because if we're using the same questions, it makes a lot more sense and it goes faster. I'm not starting over and trying to figure out all this new stuff. Let me give you this new perspective. No. Common problem, common solution, and we're all in the book together, right? We don't have to be therapists. We're not therapists. We're just asking the questions out of the book. Women think they have to be therapists, in this fifth step process. So as you're reading through to page 76, I want you guys to think about how my words about all fifth steps look alike. And then the second thing is, how do I start to ask these questions to get to the fourth column, to get to the defects of character? So, and they're all located, trick question, they're all located in the previous chapter. All right, so that's all I have for today. In 2 weeks, we'll talk about the fifth step and all the fun stuff that goes along with that. But
Thank you, Lisa. That was awesome. So good.
Thank you.
We hope you've enjoyed this From the Vault re-release of the Magdalen House podcast. Tune in every first and third Wednesday for a new release from one of our 3 podcast series. To learn more about the Magdalen House and the services we offer, visit magdalenhouse.org or follow us on your favorite social media channels by searching for the Magdalen House.